Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Viewpoint on DBS Television. Let us welcome our guests who are here in the studio. Today we are talking about societal issues, and to talk with us, we have Mr. Tikum Silvanus. He is a sole proprietor. Good evening, sir, and thank you for being there.
Thank you. It is a pleasure to be with you here today and my audience outside there.
This is not the first time that we are having him. He's being accompanied by Mr. Nkema Bernard. Mr. Nkema is a teacher. Good evening, sir, and thank you for being there.
Thank you very much, Venetius. It's always my pleasure being with you.
These are not new faces like you to realize them. And we'll begin the program straight away with the first part of the program, which is the yes or no answer session. We begin with question 1, and we are talking about the salary situation in Cameroon. Mr. Nkema, I begin with you. Do workers in the private sector in Cameroon have a right to their salaries?
They do have. They have the right to their salaries.
Yes, they do have. Mr. Tikum?
Yes, workers in the private sector have the right to their salary.
Okay, they have the right. We take question 2. Mr. Tikum, I remain with you. Can the government effect any change on the salary situation in the private sector?
Yes, the government has the obligation to effect a change.
Yes, they have the obligation, but can they?
Yes.
Okay, they can.
They can.
Mr. Nkema, can they?
They can.
Yes, they can. Those are their views. Let's go to part 2 to have them talk to us. It is not new in Cameroon that we have a society where we hear of strike actions every now and then. Most of the striking workers have something to do with months of unpaid salaries. And in today's edition of the program, we are looking at salaries of workers, especially in the private sector. And we are asking the question, these workers, do they have a right to their salaries? Because it would appear that when you work throughout the month, at the end of the month, you still practically beg for your salary. Mr. Nkema, I begin with you. You think that these workers, especially in the private sector, that they have a right to their salaries, but that is not what we have on the field.
I think workers, be it private or public, they have the right to their salaries.
Yes.
The first thing is these salaries that keep them functioning. It is this same salary that permits them to pay transport to work, which permits them to take care of their families, pay their house rents, and other bills. But it is so annoying to hear that a worker, somebody work at the end of the month, that person does not have his or her salaries. It's a problem. It's a very big problem. I think proprietors of private enterprises should be conscious. They should place themselves in a certain situation and understand that no matter how little the salary is and agreed upon, that salary has to be paid. There is no reason except or otherwise, because I believe some of these proprietors are just being wicked. Mm-hmm. They're just being wicked because when you look at a company that is multi-millionaire companies, that they tell you workers have gone for 3 months, 4 months without salary. It's a very big problem.
And the company is turning, the company is producing.
It's producing. Yes. And you see them going, and I mean, some of these things are, we call inside, how do I call it? They are situations that they just want it to remain within the company, mm-hmm. that nobody should. It is until the workers maybe strike that you discover that they have gone for 6 months, 7 months. Salaries. And maybe after 7 months, you call them and give them 2 months. No, it is a very pathetic situation.
Okay. Mr. Nkema will come back to, look at this situation. Mr. Tikum, I take from you, you are a sole proprietor. And we have it that, like I said, it's like when you work at the end of the month, you go to practically beg for your salary. Is it a right or a duty?
Actually, a worker is somebody who does a specific job to have an earning,
yes,
like salary at the end of the month.
Yes.
every worker has at the back of the mind that when the mom dies, he or she has to go to the bank to receive something. And it happens that every employer, or sole proprietor or proprietors that they do employ, they have at the back of their mind to pay workers whom they employ. Unfortunately, the sympathetic issue that is coming in is that some of these workers, they don't receive their salary regularly, and it is a very bad behavior. It is a very bad act, because these workers, they depend on the salary to feed their families. They depend on the salary to run their daily activities, going to work, coming back to their homes, health issues, and even some members, family members, they depend on that salary of which they are expecting the proprietors to pay for them in the private sector. But some of the private proprietors, yes, they sometimes fail to pay them on time, and that is causing a very big problem.
Mr. Tikum, you have touched something about paying them on time, because it would appear that those in the private sector most do not know when they are supposed to be paid, and no explanation is given for why there is salary delay.
Yes, those in the private sectors, they depend on the output of the workers or their company in order to pay their workers. Sometimes it is very, very important that those proprietors in the private sector, they should have accumulated finance to pay their workers. Suppose the output was not
there was no, call it, the output could not meet
the output could not meet the expected time.
Yes.
So they should have something kept behind to supplement.
But the issue here, Mr. Tikum, is the issue of telling the workers that, you see, you're not going to have your salary on the you don't have it today, you maybe have it 2 days after, but they are left, nobody tells them anything. You don't have anybody to address to. Well, because I have the impression that most of, I call them your colleagues, because you are in that sector, that that they believe that the workers, you are doing them a favor. They don't have a right to that salary. It's as if it's just a kind of goodwill gesture you are doing to them.
Yes, in the private sector there are exceptional cases.
Yes,
those exceptional cases, they are very few. But the deviant situation there is that most of the private sector's owners, they delays workers' salary. They delays workers' salary without telling them, and some of them staff the workers for about 2-3 months. And even if they want to pay the salary, they begin to pay it as chicken change or as if it was groundnut money. That is causing a bigger effect to those workers and their families back at home. I would say that some of those proprietors who behave like that, they are not very conscious. They are not very conscious. And in addition, some of them derive strategy by where they slash the worker salaries, they keep it within that company, and they want everything to circulate there. And they even, I can say to an extent, they make some of these workers behave like, they treat them like slaves. They treat them like slaves, because if you cannot meet basic needs back at home and you are working,
you are practically a beggar.
You are practically a beggar, and in your conscience, you have enslaved. You have been enslaved.
Okay.
Yeah.
In such a situation, Mr. Kema, does it have an impact on the output of the company?
Exactly. Exactly. When they used to say, a hungry man is an angry man.
Yes.
And to be very honest and sincere, you don't expect somebody to work to give maximum output if he is not. It's just like a dog.
Yes.
When you don't feed your dog well, the dog will not do well. Will not do hunting well. When you want to go do good hunting, as the dog is hunting, you too should be feeding the dog. It's not like a dog will catch the animal and bring, and then you eat it all, and you say, "Dog, go and lie behind." So what I'm trying to say here is, very straightforward. It has a very serious impact on the image of the company. Just imagine that workers take cardboards and go out and write and sit in front of a company carrying the cardboards. We are demanding 7 months salary. What image is the whole world? Media houses pass around and get information. You see, they start publishing it here. Journals
now
and the rest.
Already the company now
that is how it makes the company first and foremost to be renowned in in non-payment of salaries. And then secondly, the workers are reluctant to go to work. You saw somebody who telling you, this work that I'm even going to, do they even pay me? And so on. It is not proper. I think that we should be conscious of what we do. I think that if the proprietors want their company, some are being wicked, let me be honest with you, because it's not like they lack money. And when you open a company, we don't sympathize so long as people's feelings and interests are concerned. If you create a company, you have 20 workers, and these 20 workers are supposed to be paid this amount of money paid at the end of the month. First of all, put their salary situation at hand. If without those workers, your company cannot progress. I'll give you a very good example. Let's take an example of a proprietor of a school. You cannot tell me you have 1,000 students and you are unable to pay your teachers.
Teachers who are not up to 100.
But he doesn't pay. But repair work is going on in school. There is nothing like that in school.
He is buying his car.
Material he's living in a comfortable house.
Yes.
His car, though, let's keep aside his car and the rest. But my worry is this: what you put in is what you receive at the end of the day. So therefore, there are some institutions that today, when I look at their image or images, I begin to feel that maybe there is mismanagement somewhere. Sometimes. But I believe the proprietors cannot tell us that they don't have a complete vision of their companies or institutions. Because sometimes you have to realize, if a company is falling, we know that there are companies that can fall.
Yeah.
If they are falling, I think workers will understand. If I will just give you a common example, you are working in this place, and that you are always coming to work early. The day you come to work late, they will begin to the manager will begin to say, what happened to this man today? But if it is a recurrent situation, they will just say, no, it's his old attitude.
Like that,
that's how it used to happen. And so that is just what we think, that if the proprietor, it is not even supposed to be the pressure of the state. It's not even supposed to be pressure of the government or other bodies that is going to pressurize you to pay workers that you agreed to pay them.
Okay, in addition to that,
yes, Mr.
I want to say that most of these proprietors are on dream. They just get a dream and they dive into the business sector. They don't go to counselors to put them through, and that is why you find that some of them will open up their companies or their factories, and they end up falling because they were never counseled, they were never guided on what to do, and this, as their companies are failing. That is how the workers too are.
Is there such a structure in Cameroon that can counsel those who want to, get established into?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Yes, they are. There are many of them.
Okay. Now we'll come back to what Mr. Kema was saying. Something like this: some of these proprietors, they don't lack; they have the means. But then I'm asking the question: when they have the money to pay the workers and they don't pay the workers, is it the kind of punish the workers? Is it bad faith, or let the workers feel the weight of their money, or what is really at stake? Don't they think about the well-being of their company as well?
Sir, I want to tell you that we are living in a very devilish society now. Everybody is so self-centered, egoistic and nepotic in such a way that people want to engulf things within themselves. If they don't see an interest in you extra, if you go to work in a company and you think that the little that you know is only it that you give, you don't be creative. You may end up living there with no even salary, or you may end up being dismissed there for no reason. So as a worker, I'm telling this to the worker, as a worker in a sector, you should go extra miles.
Give your best.
Give your best. Because when you give your best, and even if the proprietor does not pay your money, you sit on your bed and you pray to God. God will definitely touch the heart of that proprietor. That somebody is crying because he has given his labor to you and you are not awarding him or her for that. And that man, even if he or she is hard-hearted as what, will be able to respond in any way.
Okay, before we get to question 2, Mr. Tikum, I remain with you. We are talking about salaries. It is not the problem of payment, but another problem is the issue of very small salaries, practically the one that you cannot survive in a town like Douala. You get workers, like Mr. Kema was citing, a proprietor with more than 1,000 students, and you pay a teacher for 40,000 francs. Do you think that teacher can survive? in Douala so as to give in the best that you are asking these workers to give?
That teacher cannot survive in the case of teachers.
Mm-hmm.
And even any person working in any other company and is only focused on that company,
Mm-hmm.
in issues of salary and income, you need to diversify.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a static idea that no, what I'm doing here is only where I have, it will not go. But these proprietors in companies and other private sectors, they have the money. They have the money. And considering the fact that our society is that which is plagued with a lot of unemployment, they are taking advantage of that situation to say that, okay, because there are so many people outside there, let me get you. And if you don't want to work for this salary of 30,000 francs, you get away. Somebody will come in and do the same work. And by so doing, it even go a long way to affect those companies and those proprietors, because you will take less skilled people to come and work for less salary, and you will not be able, your company will not be able to produce well, and your product will not be consumed by the society in a long run.
Okay, Mr. Kema, we are already moving into, taking from the same logic that Mr. Tikomo is bringing. We are already living in a society where we are talking about we don't want to go for quality again, because when you are working with such a low salary, can you still give in your best?
You can't. How will you give in your best when your salary is so low? Is it a matter? I want to think that in normal terms, salaries should reflect your educational level. And
your educational level as well as experience.
As of course, let's go. Let's begin to go. Those are aspects that are supposed to be put into consideration. Experience comes in this way. Experience in the sense that you have been working in that milieu for a certain duration, maybe it's elsewhere, and you are moving to a new company. But you see, to me, the logic in the whole stuff is that the payment of salaries should reflect, one, the person in question. Let me give you an example. You can do a job, and then somebody come from behind and spoil the whole team. There are proprietors, like he rightly said, that do not bother about who is very experienced and who is very educated. They bother about whether there is some work going on in my company, and it ends like that. It's not news to let you understand that engineers who are trained specifically for specific aspects are highly paid.
Yes.
Very highly paid.
Yes.
And the services are highly needed. But when you compare it with that of the teachers of, let's say, go back, I think there is something that is really, we should have a base. As a proprietor, before being a proprietor, you must have worked yourself somewhere. And you should understand that same work that these people are coming to do is what you have done before. But maybe you were even paid better paid. And you come in with your own workers and you show them a different interest. It's a problem. It's a problem.
Okay, that brings us to question 2, where we are trying to find out, can the government effect any control on the salary situation in the private sector? Mr. Kema, I remain with you. We are talking of, you cited an issue in terms of teachers. And like he rightly said, a proprietor just picks anybody because you are a teacher, and most of these teachers are not trained teachers. And because you are not trained, they think that we just take you like that. Can the government come in to say that, no, Mr. Proprietor, your salary situation needs to be this way? You said yes.
Of course. Of course.
But we don't feel that.
Mr. Vinicius, I want to tell you this. You know, when the government put up a law and does not follow up that law will not be effective. Are you with me?
Yeah, exactly.
It is not only the issue of the government coming to the private sector, telling them now, okay, this is how it's supposed to be. It's a matter of putting the law and following it up to see whether it's applicable or not. I'll give you a good example. In government schools, for instance, what is applicable in government schools is directly applicable in private schools. That's to tell you that they are the same standard. But now, my worry is this. In normal terms, the government is supposed to step in. First and foremost, I will use schools as much as possible, because this is where we feel a lot of impact.
Yes.
And you can see the salary. In fact, you can cry for the salary is being paid to somebody. That person is taking that salary, has already consumed more than half of that salary. He has electricity bill. He's taking 40,000 francs, for instance, as salary. He has electricity bill, maybe 3,000. He has to pay transport to go to that work, throughout the whole
One
month, which is going to maybe 10,000. He has to pay maybe water bill and pay house rents, and then feed him or herself.
And if he should have a family.
We are talking about people who do not even have a family.
Okay.
In fact, it is very pathetic. But if you ask my opinion, the government can step in, and it is simple. Group these schools into categories. Grade them. And each school should fall under a category. And each of those categories, workers with this qualification in this category
must have this salary.
Must earn this. If you, the proprietor, cannot meet up, then you close your school and allowed others, those who can meet up.
Okay, Mr. Kema, I will come back to you. Mr. Tikum, when you look at it, you see that the government comes up with the minimum salary in Cameroon, which is practically about 36,000.
Yes.
Which is even below the 40,000 that some proprietors even pay their teachers in Douala here.
Yes.
So how would such a government come in now to impose a salary more than what they have? Because the minimum is, I am legally free to pay my workers from 36,000.
The government has taken everything into consideration. That is why they set a salary base of about 35 or 36,000.
About 36,000, yes.
About 36,000 francs. They are taking in consideration somebody who never went to school or somebody who never acquired skill. That is why the salary was set to that level. And the government has equally taken into consideration that she cannot employ all the
everybody.
Yes. And so he thinks of what to do in order to remedy this situation. The government came in with subsidies. The government is subsidizing schools. The government is subsidizing companies. It's even subsidizing some NGO to train people. But unfortunately, the default in this issue is that some people with big neck, let me put it right in quote, they find out that if they go to this sector of development in the private sector, they may have the opportunity to have a bigger cake from the government or have their own share from the cake of from the government, and then when they take it, they sit on it. They don't even care about the workers whom that company is being subsidized because of them. That is where the problem is coming. As for the government is doing its best to see that situation are at least remedied in such a way that everybody should be at a square meal a day. But our proprietors and those who don't want to share the cake equitably, they take it and they put it in their arms.
36,000 for those, according to you, who are not qualified or who are not trained to a certain level. And we understand that in most economies, it is the private sector that develops most economies, not even the public sector. But then, if we are at this level, at 36,000, is it not another point of trying to encourage mediocrity? Is it not another level of trying to encourage laxity? Working at 36,000, what's the interest?
36,000 is really small, but let us look in this dimension. The government has taken into consideration somebody who is living in the village, different from somebody who is living in towns or cities.
Let me ask: does the same government pay their own salaries
workers in that manner?
In that manner,
because there are government workers who are still living in town, government workers who are living in the villages.
That's why I wanted to ask him a question.
Yes, no. The reflection is very normal, because if the government should structurize the
public sector,
the private sector that way, then they should also do the same in the government, and that is why you see. That's where I was coming to Mr. Tikum, that we are creating a kind of society where everybody wants to have a matrical number, because they feel that with a matrical number, Mr. Kema, that is where you can survive. Because in the private sector, you cannot survive. Whereas in the private sector, I have the possibility of bargaining my salary. In the public sector, once you are in category A1, A2, they know the range of salary which you fall, except you have to go the unorthodox way.
I think that like he was saying, there are certain things we should understand. The best the government is doing is not up to maximum.
Yes.
We are not saying the government is not doing, but we are saying that they still need more. Because, like I told you, if there's no follow-up, nothing can go.
That's true.
You don't expect 36,000. Let's even put it up to 40,000. With the standard of living of the people and you see the way things are expensive in our normal markets. You cannot dress. We expect. Let me give you a good example. You don't expect a teacher to dress in a ramshackle manner. You come and stand. You will be the first. The proprietor will be the first person to tell him, but he doesn't give him clothing allowance, does he? He is where those dresses that he's wearing is inside that 40,000 that you gave. You gave him a normal dressing in the normal dressing for 1 month or 1 year. How much do you spend? Okay.
Yes. Round of.
Yes. So what I was like trying to say is that I want us to understand this. The government should pop in here, define each level, this category with this qualification. Are we together?
Yes.
With this qualification, these have KPM who are teaching in the government, who are recruited by the government. They have a salary.
Yes.
Those in the private sector with the same KPM,
that is
who have not had the opportunity to have the salary, a matric, should equally have something similar, or if not up to that standard, but they should not be thrown too far behind, so much that they find it so difficult to meet up. No, please, let's try. My wish is that the government should step in, categorize the schools, and give each of them that this is the category. Yes, the way forward. Category A, B, C, D, and they categorize their workers too. Those that are maybe with a first degree. And the first degree is what? With the experience of this, to earn this.
Correct.
And stratify like that. And then send this to the private schools. Sector. And then private sector, come back to the fee and verify whether things are moving correctly. If they do this, I bet you, we will not have this problem.
Okay. Mr. Tikum, technicians are telling us that we are out of our time. What should be the way forward, at least in 2-3 seconds?
The way forward, I want to say that the government should really step in, just like our brother they have said, to see how things are put in equitable level, and that our youth, they should struggle to be creative, such that they should not depend only on white collar job from the government. They should equally be creative.
They should learn to be job creators, and not job
seekers.
Thank you, gentlemen, for
let me just say that I'm so pleased to be here. Vanessa, that I used to be with, I'm so delighted to hear that she's a mother. In fact, that is it means that the family is increasing in number.
Thank you so much.
We are so happy with that the Lord has brought in this delivery without any problem.
Thank you so much.
My regards to her and the family.
Thank you so much. That is the wish that we are taking to the family of Mr. and Mrs. Shuyong MacDonald. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with that we come to the end of today's edition of Viewpoint. Tomorrow will be another day when we will come your way with another interesting topic. Right behind, after us, we were having the news in the English language with Cynthia Nguemo. Until then, good night, goodbye.